All right, we are live. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Move the Crowd's monthly live webcast. We've got from the hills of Ojai, California, to the desert in Joshua Tree, California, to wherever you are right now. We welcome you to our July tip of the month. I'm Dana Balicki. I'm an engagement strategist with Move the Crowd. Move the Crowd, in case you're just meeting us for the first time, we're the nation's first entrepreneurial training company dedicated to helping the next generation stay true, get paid, and do good. So remember that. Stay true, get paid, do good. So tonight we'll have the pleasure of spending the next 45 minutes or so with entrepreneurial soul coach Rha Goddess and the Move the Crowd community. So before I hand it over to Rha, let me just tell you a little bit more about what we do here at Move the Crowd, who we are, who we be, what we stand for. So as I mentioned, we're an entrepreneurial training company focusing on conscious entrepreneurs and cultural creatives, right? That's who we serve. And we work with our clients to leverage their unique creativity, their strengths, and their passion into tangible and profitable results, right? Remember, to stay true, to get paid, and to do good. So through our True Paid Good Academy, which is our year-long intensive where you're paired with your own coach, our entrepreneurs emerge with the vision to move forward, the knowledge to up their game, and the power to achieve their own flavor of success, right? This is very important to us. We're not about cookie cutter success. This is about your unique flavor, what makes you special and what you have to contribute. So you can join us for our monthly live webcast, welcome, our weekly live tweet chats. So that's Ask MTC, hashtag Ask MTC tweet chat with one of our coaches, including Rha Goddess, every Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern. And we hit up a different topic each week. So you can just follow us on Twitter and get in the group. And then, of course, through our blog and just find us on Facebook and Twitter. So for those of you who are new to us, Rha will tell you how to get to know us better and how we can get to know you better with a free strategic consult with one of our expert coaches. So we'll talk about that at the end of the chat tonight. So just stay tuned. So back to tonight. We'll be taking questions in the video interface via Google+. So wherever you're watching this, there'll be a prompt on the screen. If you're watching us live, of course. If you're watching this after July 2nd, then you just have to hope that someone asked your question. Or you can always hit us up on Twitter or Facebook. So we'll be taking questions via the Google+ interface. Just click the question, the Q&A button, and you'll follow the prompts, or you can submit a question via Twitter using our Ask MTC hashtag. So with that's it. That's how you join us tonight. And then I'm going to hand it over to Rha Goddess to just steep us in the tip of the month. Our theme of the month for July is Reap and Sow. So I hand it over to you. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Dana, and I hope you all can hear me well out there. Hey. It is so wonderful to be with you, and actually to be with you in this incredible backdrop. Maybe I'll show it to you all at the end of our time tonight. I don't want to distract you or make you too jealous. But it's such a pleasure and an honor to be with you all tonight as we kick off the month of reaping and sowing. And so tonight's tip opportunity is, one, to understand how to seed, how to labor, and how to harvest in honor of our dreams. Number two is to discover what it means and what it takes to have full integrity. And then number three is to cultivate our power through conscious, consistent action in alignment with our highest purpose. We're going to talk a lot about integrity tonight because I know that this is a word that gets thrown around quite a bit. And I really want to humbly offer up our definition and the way that we work with the phrase and the term integrity, and potentially also to give you a little bit of a different take on reaping and sowing as a way to deepen and strengthen your ability to work with this dynamic and this principle and this law. So, when we hear the words reap and sow, I know often it's hard not to think of stories in the Bible and this whole idea that God is watching. So you better be on your best behavior. Right? In the Buddhist tradition, it is known as the law of karma, or cause and effect. And there is the belief that you can either cultivate good karma or bad karma through your actions. Also, in the Buddhist tradition, there is this belief that you accumulate karma over past lives, meaning that sometimes in your current life, you have to do a little extra good to make up for some dirt you did way back in the day. And so, the moral of this message, of course, is like, don't be a jerk, right? Is what we hear all the time in any lifetime, right? Treat people well, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. You all know the deal. But there is another aspect of reaping and sowing that is rooted in the power of grounded expectations, consistent conscious action, and the idea that our labor has a direct correlation to our reward. And this is about being more than just a cautionary tale. This is the aspect of the law that is actually the symbol of faith and determination. When we act with intention, when we act with love, when we act with commitment, there are forces that awaken and move in concert with us. And sometimes, even though we cannot immediately see the fruits of our labor, that does not mean that the impact of our efforts does not exist. I'm going to say that again, especially for those of you who've been working really, really hard out there, and maybe you're not seeing what you want to see, right? That, when we work, even though we cannot immediately see the fruit of our labor, that does not mean that the impact of our efforts does not exist. Just like faith, patience is a hard virtue to come by, particularly in a society that tells us that you should have it all, do it all, be it all, make it all happen now. Right? In our society, instant gratification often trumps hard work and dedication, because the minute we want something, we've been conditioned to believe that it must appear overnight. And we become anxious sometimes, some of us, frustrated, resentful, angry, and when it does not appear. So tonight we get to explore, and through this month, through our work, we get to explore, what is our relationship to faith? And what does it mean to act in a conscious way? And how do we develop real integrity? And what role does karma have to play in the matter of our success? This month, we have the opportunity to grow to a new level of determination by cultivating a sense of knowing beyond what our eyes can see. This month, we get to experience the power of our full integrity as we reap and sow. Reap and sow. So a little bit about my reap and sow journey. Many, 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 many moons ago, when I was a young, excited, exuberant, brand new, fresh out the box professional, I had a corporate gig. And I worked for a Fortune 50 company, and I worked at a time when women in our industry were rare. Young people in our industry were rare, and people of color, well, even more rare. And it was also at a time when the affirmative action debate was kind of at its height of controversy. And people would be, this was a lot of the sort of the water cooler talk, right? This idea of merit versus affirmative action. And, as much as people would enter into these conversations with the best intentions, very often they would sort of dissolve into battles of fairness and worthiness and intelligence. And often there was an atmosphere of tension that was created, and sort of as a way to kind of cover over the tension, a sense of false camaraderie, right? So kind of like we're all in this together, but not really. Y'all know what I'm saying. Anybody who's done that corporate gig, wave your hand if you know what I'm saying. On my first day of orientation, I was incredibly excited because I was one of the first people in my family to ever enter into the corporate ranks. And it really, for me, was about having the opportunity to return on the investment that my parents had made in me, and how hard they had worked to create opportunities for my siblings and I. And I really took it to heart. And, as I was standing there in the orientation and being welcomed along with the other recruits, I really began to think about what was my contribution going to be and how was I going to find my way. This was a new world for me, a new paradigm for me. And, when I finally got assigned to my field office and I entered into the office on the first day, I, sort of greeted everyone and got a very interesting set of mixed responses. People were not shy, let me say, about telling me about their perspectives on affirmative action or their perception of Black people, or, and for those of us who are, navigating these predominant environments where we in some way, shape, or form may represent some sort of symbol of a minority, know what it is to be in those sort of awkward conversations where, people are really trying to navigate their ignorance, but at the same time, navigate their curiosity. And so I had a whole bunch of that kind of going on. Right. But, it was kind of like, okay, welcome to the real world. Over the 5.5 years that I worked with this company, I had the opportunity to do amazing things like travel the globe. I had the opportunity to architect very complex deals. I had the opportunity to launch new products. And I just learned an incredible amount. And again, because the industry was so male dominated, it was incredibly competitive. And not only the competition sort of among the other aspects of the company, but also, among our competitors in the industry, but also within the context of the team. And, my colleagues had no problem throwing each other under the bus to make one another look good. And I learned very early on that that was not a game I wanted to play. And it had everything to do with my upbringing. I was very, very clear that I needed to really discern who I wanted to be, no matter what other people were engaging in, and what was the contribution that I wanted to make. About 3.5 years into my stint, I got transferred to the West Coast, and it was basically covered the states of Wyoming to Washington. And it was a distributor territory. And so I wound up managing over 63 field sales distributors, of which 2 were women. The other 61 were men. And we were calling on places like Pocatello, Idaho, and, Spokane, Washington. And so, I'm going out to these very, very remote places, and I'm calling on all of these different kinds of industries. And the product line that I sold was a very boutique kind of product. It was very expensive. And there were probably about 20 or 30 different types of industries that use this product for various reasons. And so what I began to realize in spending time with these field sales distributors, who were all kind of very distrustful of salespeople, because often they would do calls with salespeople and the salespeople would make all kinds of promises and then never deliver. And as I began to learn this, I really recognized that there was an opportunity to distinguish myself, one, by being very responsive to the needs and the requests of my salespeople, my distributor people. And then 2, I recognized there was an opportunity to become really technically sound. Now, I have a background in chemistry and computer science, right? And some of you may be like, what does that have to do with being an entrepreneurial coach and trainer? Right? However, I will tell you that there are many of those skills that absolutely serve me to this day. But I utilize and leverage my chemistry background to become really, really knowledgeable, and spent time with the PhDs and spent time learning the products and got in the lab and rolled up my sleeves and really became very, very learned about what I was selling and the benefits of what I was selling and how the product operated when it got into the hands of my customer, right? And one day I landed at a distributor, and all of sort of this work I had been doing was kind of put to the test. And this was a new guy I'd met, and I sort of came in and introduced myself, and I just could tell by the look on his face, he's like, oh my God, like, who is this? And what did these people send me? And he was just kind of like, let's get in the car, let's go. And we drove out to a customer, and he was really upset. I wasn't quite clear about why he was so upset. And then we pulled into the parking lot of a sawmill just outside of Tacoma, Washington. And we are looking at these huge lumberjack dudes. I'm talking like 6'3", 6'4" in coveralls, and they're moving these huge logs with this heavy machinery. And then he just turns to me and he says, listen, we got a bad batch of your product. It ruined a massive run. And your customer service rep just sent the purchase guy a new batch, and apparently that product's not working either, and he's really, really pissed. And we now got to go in and talk to this guy. Let's go. And it was like, okay, gulp. So me and my little, I want you all to imagine this, me and my little incline suit and my little 9 West heels, I'm clicking along the floor of this sawmill. It's covered in sawdust. Sawdust is blowing right all around the factory. And I'm going up these little rickety set of stairs into this booth to talk to this purchase agent. And I mean, when I got up there, his name was Todd. And when I got up there, I mean, this dude looked like he wanted to punch somebody in the face. And I'm just like, oh, and and he was trying to contain himself, but he totally rolled his eyes when he saw me. Like, you've got to be kidding me. And so I asked him what was going on. He was basically like, the product doesn't work. We've tried it. Your customer service rep sent us a new batch. It's not working. So we go down to the floor and I ask them to pop the lid on the barrel of the product. And then I turn to someone and I'm like, can you get me a flask? And I take off my jacket and I roll up my sleeves. And all of a sudden, it's fascinating the way the energy in the mill shifted. Like, okay, this is someone that's willing to get their hands dirty immediately, right? So the guys became actually very supportive. I was like, can you get me a flask? Can you get me some hot water? And I could tell as soon as I popped the lid that the product had been frozen and it had separated, and that basically what needed to happen in terms of being able to redoctor the product and get it to work. So I got them, asking them for water and this and that, and they went. And there was a big guy who ran the line by the name of Dan. He's about 6'7", 300 pounds. But very friendly demeanor. And I decided that was going to be my best friend. So me and Dan started talking. I was like, Dan, did you roll the barrel? Yep, rolled the barrel. Didn't work. I was like, okay, great. So they got me the flask. They got me the hot water. I started to work up a sample. And I'm looking at the line and trying to understand what's going on with the line and figuring out where the application area is. And finally, I hand Dan the sample and I'm like, okay, apply it now and let's see if it works. And sure enough, Dan adds it to the line and the product immediately, you could see the effect. It was an anti-foam product. And so there was a lot of foam generated when they were cutting the wood, basically. And this, once you throw the product on, it's supposed to knock the foam down. And it had not been doing that. And as soon as this product hit the water, it knocked the foam down. And Dan starts clapping like, oh, we're in business, And I have a little bit of an audience at this point, and needless to say, I turn and then I just start to give them instructions. Okay, guys, here's what you need to do. The product is good, but this is what you need to do to work it up. I ask them to send me a sample of the old batch, the whole thing, right? And I give you all that example because when we get back into the car, this is a field sales distributor that had no use for me when I first walked in the door, right? Based upon how I looked, based upon how I was dressed. There's no way that this sort of New York City slicker is going to know how to do anything that's going to be remotely helpful here. And he turned to me and he said, I don't know what you did, but thank you. And the word of that interaction and the word of that work that happened in that little sawmill outside of Tacoma, Washington, began to spread like wildfire through the community of distributors. And there was another level of respect and engagement that was generated as a result. And I raise this because I know sometimes we can be in environments and we can get caught up in the politics. We can get caught up in who likes us and who doesn't like us. And we don't have any control over that, right? And I'm going to say this to you, whether you're a CEO running your own business or whether you're working for somebody else's company or you're in somebody else's not-for-profit organization. We don't often have control over who likes us and who doesn't like us. Anybody hear what I'm saying? But you have to make a decision about where you're going to put your energy. And because of how I was raised and because of what I was committed to in terms of my own personal integrity, I chose not to get caught up in the drama and in the politics, and I chose to be a contribution. And I had to trust, because I didn't know if I was going to have that moment in the sawmill. I had no idea how it was going to show up, but I had to trust that if I got good at my product and if I gave amazing customer service, that somehow it would pay off. Now, I did not put my head in the sand, right? Because I'm not saying that, right? I want you all to know I was just as ambitious as my peers, but I just chose not to play a game, right, that required me to stand on or step on someone else in order to be successful. I chose sleeping well at night. I chose my ability to look myself in the mirror over getting caught up in who I could do in, quote unquote, to get the next promotion. And I trusted that it would serve me. And whether it took me as far as, quote unquote, it could have or not, my ability to sleep at night, my ability to have self-respect, my ability to have the respect of people who were serious about the work mattered more to me. I raise this because what has always guided me has been this idea of what you put in is what you get out. If you give great effort, you get great reward. If you put in and work with love, then what comes back to you is love. And as much as I know we pay lip service to this, as much as I know we try or we think we try, there are times when sometimes we feel like we become a victim to our environment. Anybody hear what I'm saying? Or we become a victim to our circumstance. And we know we're not showing up in a way that is in full alignment with our values, but we choke it up to what it is that we think we have to do in order to get through an environment. But this is the place where I do want to say to you all that if you do the work, and if you do the work consistently, and if you do the work consciously, that it must pay off, because that is the law. It is what the law of cause and effect says. It is what the law of karma says. It is what it means to reap and to sow. And so I know I'm about to open it up for some questions, but I want to give you all a question to think about. And maybe this will come into play in some of the questions that you pose to me. But I want you all to look at, where are you not putting in the effort that you know you should be putting in, right? And when I say what you should be putting in, I'm talking about what is consistent with your potential, right? So this is another way that we think about integrity. Integrity is also about consistency. And so we talk a lot about the sort of the good you do or the bad you do. Does it come from a malicious place or does it come from a good place? That's one facet of integrity. But there's another facet of integrity, which is, can I be counted on, right? If I give my word, do I deliver my word? And then there's another level of integrity, which is about, do I show up consistently with who it is that I say I am, even when it's not going my way, even when I'm challenged, even when people are rude? Do I still rely on or come back to the commitment that I have to always be in the truth of who I am, no matter what is going on around me? And so I'm curious about where you're being challenged there. What are the edges of this conversation for you? And where are you being challenged to be in the fullness of who you are? Where are you being challenged to be love when maybe it's not easy or it's not convenient? And where have you been putting it in, but not seeing the reward and sort of feeling like you're being challenged around your faith? I just want you to take a minute and look at that. And then I want to open it up for some questions, right?
Yeah, that's a great question, Rha. And I'm reading a couple that came in and seeing a real theme through here, right? So I'm excited to hear what you have to say. And knowing, for myself, having gone through a lot of different types of work in terms of, work that I've always been blessed to do work that I'm really passionate about. And, right. But even when you do work that you're passionate about, you can still find yourself sort of dragging or questioning, having moments of burnout and trying to find your way out of it and or questioning your intention or the outcome. And so it doesn't, I think that working with entrepreneurs, right, those folks who come through the crowd and seeing folks online, it's like, yes, there's something that's important about being aligned with your values and doing work that is aligned with your passions. And, it's like, that's like just the first step, right? Then we
Correct.
got, there's so much more to drop into. Then once you do that, it's not the full answer, right? And I hear you on integrity, right? And that you were even doing work that wasn't, here you are now, entrepreneurial soul coach. There you were arms in the, in the machine in Spokane or wherever you were, and Tacoma. But then what does it all come back down to?
Yeah.
Right?
When I was growing up, I'll say this one thing, and then I really do want to turn and take your questions. When I was growing up, there used to be a word called character that we don't even use anymore. somehow we shift from a culture of character to a culture of personality. And it became about being dynamic and charismatic and seducing, right? The seductress energy. And the challenge was that we have not been encouraged as much in that cultural shift to cultivate substance in our being as individuals. So it's not just about being trendy and catchy and cute, but it's actually about how do we become people of merit, which is very different, right, than how do we become fabulous or famous. And listen, I'm not mad at fab. I'm not mad at fame. May it come to you if it's for the right reasons, right? And if you use it in the right way, by all means, I want it for you, right? But there's something about the wholesomeness that we're being invited to return to, especially in these times. The wholesomeness that we're being invited to return to, which is the conversation of integrity, which begins with reaping and sowing. Where do we invest? Where do we plant? Where do we labor? Where do we harvest? And how we are making those choices, because it's so easy to be driven to distraction. Amen. Like so easy.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I think this next question is perfect. So this comes in from C. I remember last month with Reshma Sajani, you talked about loving your journey, which was awesome. Thank you. But I'm still feeling like I'm not sure I'm on the right path. I'm in confusion about the right next step for me. Sorry. One step requires a double down on a project I'm not sure I'm committed to, but I love the team. And the other option is a project I love, but pretty sure it's not going to meet my financial goals. I'm not sure which part of my priorities I should listen to. What if I make the wrong choice?
It's a great question. So part of the practice here is, how do you really go into your heart and really listen for where you are most drawn, and to listen for what within this area where you love the team, what is it about the team that you love? Because sometimes the universe brings us elements of things, and we kind of have to put it together. You know what I'm saying? So you're like, oh, okay, I'm passionate about this project. So I know I want to do work in this area, but I'm challenged about the way it's currently set up, or I'm challenged by the way it's structured. I love the way this thing is structured over here, but it's not really what I want to be doing, right? And so, so much of what's in the culture is how we have to sacrifice. Either we're sacrificing the passion for the money, or we're sacrificing the money for the passion, right? And we really have to be vigilant in leaning into saying we can have both. We have to be vigilant not only in our belief, but we also have to be vigilant in the actions we take to support the ability to have both. So one of the things that I would ask you to do, C, is to look at, what do you think it will take to have that thing that you love be viable? What do you think it will take to have that thing that you love be viable? And what can this other thing that maybe is well-resourced teach you about what needs to be in place around the thing that you love? And is there a way that you can work on the thing that you love in a way that enables you to still sustain yourself? It may mean you move a little slower. It may mean it takes you a little bit longer. I come back to this conversation about how we put this pressure on ourselves sometimes, that it has to happen overnight, or it has to click immediately, right? But are you willing to maybe move a little slower, to be more deliberate about how you are building sustainability into this area where you are passionate, so that as you make the transition, you are not compromising your viability, and you're not compromising any facet of your integrity, right? You're still stepping out on faith. It doesn't mean that you're not stepping out, but you're stepping out in a way that supports you, as opposed to in a way that may put undue pressure on what it is that you're trying to build or create. So I hope that was helpful. And see, I absolutely want to invite you to come into a strategy session. We'll talk more about that at the end, but just it sounds like there are a couple of pieces moving, and it may serve you to have some one-on-one time to really think it through. But that's what I would give you in this moment.
Great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that about pulling all of the different elements together, right? This is sort of like what are, when we're given all, little bits of pieces and they light us up, right? And we do automatically go into that, like, oh, I have to choose, right?
Yes.
Like I've got to choose one. I can't have it all. Like, oh, obviously, because this is here, this is here. Instead of being creative, right? Like what does it look like to begin to envision having all of those things?
Yeah.
So let's go to this next question. And then I also want to make sure that we make time for, I know that you've got your 5.
Yes, ma'am. My little tips.
5 ways to stay above the fray, AKA protocols for good reaping and sowing. So I read them and I love them. And so I want to make sure we get in here. So, and don't squeeze them in too much at the end. So this next question is from Jay. I started my own business, a boutique web consulting firm. And while I've had some success, I'm losing my connection to the passion I had when I started. I'm feeling burnt out, less connected to the purpose, and even my team. I'm afraid to let go since it's my baby and I know it better than anyone, but I'm afraid I'm poisoning it. How do I let it go, or how do I find my joy again?
It's a great question. So, and give me the first initial of that name, Jay. So, Jay, the first thing I would say is you probably need a vacation. And I want to say this because as CEOs, we toil in our business day in and day out. And the good news about that is that we certainly develop a certain kind of work ethic and stamina that can contribute to our success. But sometimes we get so in it that we don't have perspective, or we get so in it, we overwork. And what it creates is just what you said, a lack of joy and a total sort of burnout. And we even become resentful. So I don't know if that's happening for you, Dee, but just Jay, but wave your hand if you're hearing what I'm saying. Maybe a little resentful, right? That all your time and your energy and effort. One of the things that we have to understand is that it's important to take breaths in the work that we're doing. Overworking is just as detrimental to our business as being quote unquote lazy, right? Or underworking or playing small. And we have to find the way to strike the right balance. So, when you're going all in on a heavy project, you need to build in 2 days or 3 days where you're doing nothing. Right? Or in the context of how you orchestrate your week, you need to build in at least an hour a day where you are not with a phone out your ear, or you are not talking to a member of your team, where you are just in silence, right? And you're not in front of your computer, where you're just able to listen to your own thoughts. We need the breaths. We need, it's like we don't just exhale, y'all. We inhale and we exhale. And there is a rhythm. There is a rhythm and a flow. And so the first thing I'm going to say is you need to step away from the business and just get some perspective and take some downtime. I also want to encourage you to look at where you are not trusting your team. Are you not delegating? As CEOs, sometimes we have a tendency to under delegate, right? Because nobody can do it like we can do it. Well, guess what? That's okay. You have to learn, specifically if you want to grow and you want to be healthy and happy in the business, you have to learn with being okay that everybody isn't you. And as a matter of fact, you have to begin to see it as a good thing that everybody isn't you. You're there to cultivate leadership in your team so that you really are giving yourself the room and the space to step away, right? Dana knows, and she's going to laugh when I say that, but Dana knows that internally there's a Liberate Rha project going on all the time amongst the team. How can they take me out the middle? Because I trust them. And so you want to look at where are you not trusting your team, right? And where is that about you? And then you also want to look at where may that be about what you're not having, what you need, right? So there may be people on the team that need to be replaced. There may be more capacity that needs to be brought in, and you may have to be creative in sort of thinking about how you do that. But these are all of the things, you all, that I'm naming that will contribute to the burnout. When you're reaping and sowing, this is such an important principle, because when you're planting, there is a time that you walk away. You don't overtend a field. You water it, you give it sunlight, you weed the garden, but there are times when you let it rest so that it can do what it needs to do. And I say that your business is the same way. Sometimes we get in and we think that the only gear is fifth gear. Anybody hear what I'm saying? We don't ever downshift. We don't never go to third or bring it on down to first. But my experience has been when I step away from my business, especially when I've been over laboring, when I step away from my business and give it room to breathe, that things start to fall into alignment. So all of those things can contribute to burnout. So I would say to you, if any of that's resonating with you, Jay, right? You taking time away from the business, you looking at where you can empower a team on a whole other level, you looking at and being really clear and adamant about what you need in order to step away and get perspective. And then the third and final area I would name for you is, who are you serving? There may have been a time when you were first starting that you were serving clients that excited you. And then there may have been a time in the business out of survival where you begin to take projects that weren't making you happy. Anybody hear what I'm saying? Or you were engaging with things that you thought you had to do in order to make the business viable. There may be an opportunity to come back to your roots there and look at, are you serving people who inspire you? Are you working with people who respect you, who pay you well, who pay you on time, right? Because these are all of the other kinds of things that can draw and suck energy out of a business and make it laborious in ways that don't feel good. So I've given you a number of places to look. And again, I want to invite you to come talk to us if you want to go more in depth and have more one-on-one time where we can get into it. But I'm hoping these things I've given you here are helpful. And I feel you, Jay. Take a vacation, though. That's my first tip.
Yes, that's great. And even if you're not a CEO, right? That's a good way you're feeling.
Yes.
And I think this is something that, you said to me, or I know we've talked about, when feeling burnt out, what you want more than anything is change. And what can happen is you get excited about any change that it comes down the pipeline, right? Like a switch up here or there. I mean, I know I've experienced this, and you can grab onto that change, and it might not be the self-directed change. It might not actually be what you want, right? So it's sort of a very vulnerable place to be burnt out, because you can end up just compounding it. Right. And so,
and dare I say, there was this recent study, and I talked about this earlier. There was this recent study that said, we are only productive for like 55 hours a week. And to my entrepreneurs out there who I know are putting in 80, 90, 100, right? Dare I say, right? To hear this idea that 55, like there's a point where you are no longer useful.
Right.
And we have to understand that. And there are tons of studies that have shown this, right? We have to understand that the first thing that we must look at is how we're stepping away and giving the business and giving ourselves room to breathe and restore and refresh.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's take a question just came in from a viewer. So this came in from R, and even though those of us who are watching this live can see who it is, this is for the benefit of those watching later. Can you please say more about the definition of integrity as a consistency with your potential? I'm used to thinking of integrity only in terms of being your word, but this other perspective is interesting.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for this question. I love this question. So when we really get quiet in ourselves, and when we really come into touch with the deepest, most vulnerable aspects of ourselves, we get glimpses of our full potential, what it is that we know we're capable of. And it's interesting in that this, Dana, builds on the showing up conversation, right? And what it takes to show up. When we blow it out the park, there's an opportunity not only to celebrate the accomplishment, but to really become profoundly in touch with what it takes to show up at that level. For many of us, we do not give ourselves what we need to bring our best consistently. right? So I think about Jay's comment, we're pulling on burnout, right? Or we're trying to sort of piece it together. We're often overstretched or overpromised or overcommitted or underappreciated, right? It's usually a lot of the overs and the unders. It's a very little right on par, right? Y'all hear what I'm saying? So this idea of consistency becomes crucial. And I'm going to give you an example for me of someone who I think demonstrates the essence of integrity in what they do. I don't know if you are fans of the singer Celine Dion, but to me, she is a singer's singer, right? Regardless of whether that's your genre or not.
Right. Totally didn't think you were going there.
Consistency. You didn't think I was going there, right? But there is a consistency. If you ever watch her perform, there's an integrity to what she brings, to what she does, that I don't think I've ever seen a bad performance. Now, I wish I could say that about other artists, and there are artists that I love. And listen, we all have good days, we all have bad days. But there is something in the ritual of how she prepares herself that enables her to deliver at a level that is consummate professional. And so when I talk about this consistency, it becomes crucial because when you engage in business, whether you are a professional working for a company or whether you are in your own business, when somebody hires you, they're counting on you to be whoever you were when you showed up in the interview. And all of us know you can be dynamo in the interview. We've had this, right? Where we've interviewed people, they've blown the interview out the water, and then they show up for the first day of work and it's like a whole other person, right? Or they show up for 2 weeks looking amazing, and then all of a sudden a month later, you have no idea what you bought into, right? It takes a certain level of rigor and discipline to bring that consistency. And the work for us when we are committed to having integrity is to be consistent in the quality of our contribution and to do those things that support and enable us to show up in our very best form, even when it's challenging, even when the environment is not conducive, right? Even when we may not like the way things are going down, right? There was a lot of stuff I stepped over in corporate. Trust me. There were a lot of comments, a lot of looks, a lot of opinions, a lot of stuff that could have been distraction for me. Y'all hear what I'm saying? I could have got caught up in who liked me or didn't like me or who got a promotion over me last week and it should have been mine. And I could have gotten all up in all of that. And I really chose that where I was going to bring my energy was showing up consistently. And I became someone that my clients could rely upon. I became someone that my distributors could rely upon. And I became a trusted resource. And all of a sudden, people began to seek me out. And people knew, oh, she's not going to play that game. She doesn't get involved in that, right? And your brand, because this is about developing your brand, right? My brand became technically sound, serious about customer service. Anytime my name came up, technically sound, serious about customer service, right? Because that's who I wanted to be known as in that company. So when you think about consistency, who do you want to be known as? When you know what you're capable of, why wouldn't you want to bring that all the time? And what are the things, this is where you want to become profoundly related to, what are the things that enable you to consistently bring your best? Why? Because that's who you are. Why? Because that's your commitment. Why? Because you understand that if you do that and you make that commitment, you have no choice but to reap the rewards. Because that's how the law works. Cause, effect. Cause, effect. What you put in is what you get out.
Sorry, I was like tweeting away there. I get all caught up sometimes. So let's see. Well, Rha, let's see. We're at a quarter after. I think I would love to go into
my tips.
Yeah.
Give me 2 seconds. I'm just going to grab my cover sheet. Hang on for 2 seconds, y'all.
Yeah. We're in windy California where nothing stays where it should.
I'm out here in the wind.
That's what I just said. I said,
I'm out here in the wind. I made some special notes for you all, and I'm so adamant about them that I don't want to, you know what I'm saying? I'm about giving y'all the best, you all. Absolutely.
Right. These are non-technical difficulties, right? This is just straight up like natural difficulty blowing my papers around.
This is just nature. Exactly. Doing its thing. Okay. So these are the 5 tips that I want to give you. The first one is, and this is all about you all staying above the fray. And when I say staying above the fray, I mean not allowing ourselves to get distracted. Keeping our eye on the prize, paying attention to what is important for us. And regardless of whether you have your own business or you're working for someone else's organization or you're contemplating an opportunity to collaborate, right? Because some of you may be in between right now, I believe that these tips are going to be valuable and pertinent for you. So the first tip is to get clear about your why, right? And I come back to C. I'm thinking about you, C, when I say this. Get clear about your why. Tell the truth about what motivates you. Is it contributing to others? Is it being liked? Is it about learning and growing? Is it about all of the above, right? Is it about being able to meet a challenge? What do you see as your role? And what is the contribution you hope to make in any scenario? And why is that contribution important to you? Why are you in this job? Why are you in this team, on this team, right? Why are you building this business? Get clear and tell the truth about your why. Number 2, ask yourself daily, are you acting or are you reacting? Right? There are 2 types of actions. Actions, we say, that are rooted in vision, which are inspired by what you want to be creating and achieving and making happen in the world, versus actions rooted in victim, which are inspired by having to prove yourself or having to retaliate for some stupid trespass that somebody else did, right? And we can get caught up, like I said, very easily, you all. Lots of temptation there, right? But it's important to know what is driving the choices you make every single day, because they are going to govern how you show up. The actions may look the same, but the source of those decisions can make all the difference when it comes to achieving your desired outcomes. Tip number 3, know the bottom line. Politics often have very little to do with the bottom line, y'all. As a matter of fact, they frequently serve to distract you from the bottom line and distract you from the real work at hand. Whether you have your own business, again, or you're working in someone else's, the closer you can be to bringing the impactful actions, producing the desired results, the less you may have to endure the politics and the drama. Keep your focus on the priority objectives and be an advocate for clear expectations, achieving the goals, and getting the work done. No one can hate you for wanting to win the game, right? So keep your eye on the prize. Know the bottom line. Tip number 4, honor your limits. Each of us has a very different threshold of tolerance. Know where your boundaries are, from overworking, hear me, my sister Jay, to overpromising, to overpleasing. Check in with yourself frequently to ensure that you are a good steward of your agreements, your relationships, and of your own self-worth and respect. I'm going to say that one again. Check in with yourself frequently to ensure that you are a good steward of your agreements, of your relationships, and of your own self-worth and respect. Set boundaries long before lines are crossed and give gentle but firm reminders wherever needed. Be vigilant about your own authenticity and about the most valuable use of your time, your energy, and your voice. And finally, tip number 5, show kindness. You know, my mother, God rest her soul, used to have a saying, you never know who anyone is or who they will become. You treat everybody with dignity and respect. And this has been standout advice for me in every situation I've ever been in, personal or professional. Because we've all been conditioned to jockey along a pecking order into position for power, right? We've seen people treated badly, right? We've been treated badly, and some of us, unfortunately, have treated others poorly, right? So we know how it feels, all sides of the equation. This practice is simple, but it is not easy. People will try you. People will test you. You can show kindness without being a doormat. Stand firm where you need to stand firm, but always, always, always do it with respect, because karma is real. All right, those are your 5 tips.
Those are great. Thank you, Rha. Thank you. Thank you. I feel like you answered my question that I didn't ask tonight.
Yeah. And what was that, Dana? Do you want to say anything about that before we close?
Yeah, I mean, I do work as a coach as well. And there are some clients that I've worked with for a long time. And I know that part of my charm and magic, right, with my clients is our relatability, or my relatability. And I think sometimes that can lend itself to getting a little tricky in terms of boundaries. And I don't feel like, I've never had the experience of feeling like a major boundary was crossed. Though there are things with timing and scheduling that, like, once you start to be a little flexible, how do you go back? I guess that is my question. You sort of gave me more food for thought, but since we're here, and I'm probably not the only person that deals with this, like, so you said, one of the rules was like, set up the boundaries long before they're crossed. But, like, what if you had the boundaries, you let them get crossed, and now it's like, how do you find your way? How do you find your way back? And probably
so
I'm just
great.
scared.
Yeah, it's so great to see that, right? It's so great to see that, Dana. So I too believe that other people may get value from this one, right? So let's go there. You always reserve the right to reset the game, you guys. And I think this is an important conversation, because some of us get stuck in relational dynamics that we know do not work for us, and we don't know how to get out of them. We get caught in a pattern of relating that feels ugh, and we don't know how to stop it, right? Because it's been going on for so long. But I want to suggest to you, I want to humbly offer to you that you always have the right to reset the game. And you literally can just say, time out. I want to reset this, right? I want to reset this. There are some things that have not been working for me. There may be some things that are not working for you, right? Because we always want to be open to the fact that there are 2 sides, right? Or at least, and oftentimes 3 sides to an equation, right? And I want us to talk about it, because I think there's another way to be relating. I think there's another way to be working here, right? So for my coaches out there, you get to say, time out. I want to talk about our scheduling. I know that I've had to reschedule a lot with you, and I know that you've had to reschedule a lot with me, but I really feel like our work is so important. I want both of us to reset here. Let's set our dates for the next 6 months, and let's commit to them no matter what, right? We're resetting the game here. So I want to say to you that you have permission to do that, and you get to give yourself permission. And even if it's a scary thing, because I see the lumps in people's throats as I'm saying this, particularly if you may need to have that conversation with a boss or a person in authority or a person that you feel intimidated by for whatever reason, an intimidating client, for those of us in business who have those clients that sometimes can show up with kind of bullying energy, right? And we're afraid to lose the client, right? And lose the business, that we reserve the right to reset. And we can do it with grace, right? We can do it with kindness, but we still are very, very firm in our commitment. And we're very clear about what we're wanting to achieve in the conversation, which is really to reset the boundaries and to reset the arrangement in a way that works for us. I want to say that if the person doesn't get on board, there's something about that you want to trust as well, right? So it isn't always about getting agreements. Takes me back to the reaping and the sowing. It isn't always about getting agreement, because sometimes you're not going to get it. Remember I said that to you all. I said I worked, to be technically sound. I worked to provide amazing customer service. There were people who woke up and acknowledged me as a result. And then there were people who didn't. Like, no matter what I did, the verdict was in on me as far as they were concerned. And they were resentful about the fact that I was there. And there was nothing that I could do. Right? Nothing. And at some point I got really, really clear, like they're committed to that. And ashe, let them have it. Sometimes you have to let people have it. And when I say let people have it, I don't mean let people have it. I mean, let people have it. Right? It's a very different energy. Let people have it. Trust that their journey is their journey as your journey is yours. But you can always reset. You can always reestablish a boundary. And that's a phenomenal practice. As a matter of fact, I'm giving all of you homework to do that, to play with that this month. If there's a place where there's a boundary that's been crossed, I want to give you for homework as you work with these 5 principles and these 5 steps I've just given you, that you work to reset that boundary.
And then let us know. Straight.
tweet us up, hit us up, Facebook, whatever, in the blog. We want to hear how it goes. We give you guys homework all the time. We want to know, how does it work for you? Are you getting value? Because that's always our commitment.
Yeah, great. Well, thank you for that, Rha. Thank you for the homework assignment. I take it joyfully.
That's a good one, Day.
Thanks. We try. So just with our last minute, because I know we're a little bit over here, we, like we said at the top, we have for all of those of you who are watching, whether you're watching now live or watching later, if you have not yet taken advantage, right? And I really do say this, like, take advantage of our free strategic consults that we as Move the Crowd, that we as a company, as our commitment to getting to know you better and to serving you, to see where our work can support your vision, right? That you can sign up, and I'll let Rha say something about this as well, because I know she's got lots to say. But you can go to movethecrowd.me/academy. And when you do that, you'll be prompted to sign up for, and you can read about what the Academy is, what our commitment is about, and then you can come and learn more about what we have to offer and how we serve and who we serve. And we can see if this is a match. And at the very least, you get 30 to 45, maybe a little bit more, minutes of an expert business coach, empowerment coach, life coach, right? We don't just have, we're not just trying to fit squares into square holes here, right? We really respect and honor the whole person and have an amazing coach roster. And you'll have them inside of your business, right?
Yeah. I mean, here's what I want you all to know. We love you, and it is our commitment to serve you. And the more we know about you, the better we can serve you, which is our deep, 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 deep desire to do, right? To serve you in a way that is fruitful, to help you make your passion and your purpose profitable. So I just want to reiterate what Dana is saying. The amazing coaches, we have expertise in clarity and supporting people in getting clear. And a lot of the questions I know that come through this environment, as well as through our Ask MTC chats, a lot of people are really, they're at those crossroads. They're trying to make those big decisions, and it's very hard to make those decisions alone. And it doesn't mean you're any less powerful or any less capable. We know you're all badass, so it's not about that. But sometimes you need that, and you want and you can benefit from a good listener, someone who can support and help reflect back your wisdom. And so these strategy sessions are really designed to support your clarity, and to support and give you an environment where you, 1, can really feel heard, and 2, where you can hear your own wisdom and be guided and supported to hear your own wisdom in a new way, right? And so we've been trained and developed to engage in that way, and we've spent many, 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 many hours, right, perfecting this way of listening and this way of engaging. And then I want you to know that we've listened to thousands of entrepreneurs, amazing souls just like you. So we've heard a lot. So we may have something that is useful to you, which is why I'm saying we've heard a lot, right? We've engaged around a lot. And so we may have something that is useful to you. So if this can be of service to you, and I do mean that it is our service, it is our seva, and you feel called to go deeper around where you feel challenged in the growing of your business, where you feel challenged in building the right transition. I think of the questions we got tonight. Again, I want to personally invite you to step in and have a consult. And then we listen together to determine if there is a way that we can continue to be of support to you. But there is no pressure and no obligation. Okay. So there you have it, beloveds. So good to be with you tonight. Such an honor and a privilege always. And, we are in it this month, y'all, reaping and sowing, cultivating determination, cultivating the next level of integrity, honoring that all of the effort that we put forth in the name of love, we will sow, we will reward, we will reap great, 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 great prosperous results. Even though you don't see it, it doesn't mean that it isn't coming. It's coming. Trust me.
I love that. Thank you. Thank you, Rha. And thank you to everyone who submitted questions, everyone who tuned in now and who will be watching this later.
Have a great night.
Happy July, y'all. Happy summer. Bye.